Warning, this video is intended for adult collectors. It contains plastic collectibles, questionable opinions, and someone who owns way too many plastic robots. It's too late. Random review is about to begin.
I'm not sure there is a more annoying Transformer exclusive these days than a Walgreens exclusive. They do not properly announce when they are coming out, they sell out almost immediately when they go online, and who knows if your store is ever actually going to see one. Personally, I think I've seen maybe one out of the previous 3 in store, and of course, like most others in the US, I hadn't seen Minerva yet. So I did get lucky. I got mine off of Pulse, and I figure as long as this toy is super hard to come by at the moment and is going to be annoying to track down when it does finally officially release, let's see if it's actually worth all the hype and all the struggle. First off, this is a one-cam video because I managed to break one of my filming lights. So right now, I'm doing an overhead light thing just so I can light the toy evenly, but that means it's haloing my head and I look like a ghoul. So you don't have to worry about the other camera. So we're just gonna keep it old school, one cam for now. We'll fix it once I get my lights replaced and all that. But I wanted to talk about this toy because this is the toy a lot are talking about right now because of its scarcity. So, I've already talked about Elita 1 from Legacy. If you've seen that review, a lot of this is going to feel repetitive to you because it's just a remold. However, you should stick around for all the changes that they made and all the other things that you need to be advised of before you go hunting down an exceptionally rare figure. So, as we look, it is the same kind of dune buggy slash roadster that they kind of went with, like that Takara insisted on. Weirdly enough, they wanted something dune buggy aesthetically, which is interesting choice. But, you know, it does at least lead to a different and interesting vehicle. It's obviously not the G1. Obviously. It is kind of doing its own thing, because it is essentially based on Elita 1's very first Earth mode. And you can see, it's not a bad design. I still like this overall design. I will admit, I think I like the white better than I like the different shades of maroon and pink. So that hits me just a little bit better. As far as like accurate details to the G1 toy, they do try, even though a lot of it is not sculpting accurate, they at least try to get a lot of the colors in the right spots. You can see the red trimming around the outside all the way to the back. That's accurate. That little bit of red exposed. In the G1 toy, that's some leftover internal parts that are exposed. Here, they just painted it to make sure it was represented. See, and that goes for the spoiler in the back as well. The front, if we're being accurate and wait for repro labels to fix this, should have a red cross on the front. Now, obviously, legally, they cannot depict a red cross anymore because that's owned by, big shock, the Red Cross. So, like Ratchet, they kind of have to do without. So, not as important on this, because this is just kind of like a weird first responder type vehicle. This is just like something to get like an emergency paramedic to a spot immediately. I'm assuming. I've never seen a roadster tailing an ambulance. It's always emergency trucks, small fire trucks, etc. Beyond that, yeah. Translucent blue windshield is on here. We have the light bar now replacing the faux top of Elita 1's head. So yeah, so I think that alone gives it such a different look rather than the weird antenna thing. So yeah, overall, I think I like this particular version of the vehicle mode better than I do the original. Now, if you want playability, well, you know, you're pretty good there. You can see on the side, you've got 3 5mm ports, which are echoed on the other side. One on top of the light bar. The light bar, of course, is removable. So if you want to actually use that one instead, that is also an option. I should also point out at this point that the translucent plastic on this toy is all clear from what I can tell and then painted over in its respective colors. You can see on the light bar, for instance, the peg is translucent, just completely translucent clear, and then the red is individually molded into that color. I like when they go to that extra effort of like multicolor molding. That actually adds a little bit more of an interesting twist. And speaking of, it meant that the weapon is actually clear. They made a big deal on the behind the scenes thing where this particular Energon weapon was the first time they intentionally left a weapon clear. And I'm not entirely sure I enjoy that look. I mean, I don't think Energon weapons mesh with this mechanical detailing they've got with this weapon, but, you know, that's just me. At the very least, they did leave you one gun in black, so you can actually have a little bit more of an accurate weapon for Minerva. And overall, yeah, just fine. Also, 4 more ports in the back. Again, if you want this emergency card to get to the emergency very quickly, you can start sticking effect parts on there to make it look like they're blasting down the highway. Alright, so, we've gone over this. I like the vehicle mode well enough, so we can transform it and see exactly what we're getting into on the robot mode. So we're going to flip these parts out to create the feet. We're going to start splitting things up, breaking panels apart. I'm going to start by moving these down. We flip her over, and then we can see where the 2 parts tab together. And then we just snap them like that. And to finish off the legs, go to these top parts here, and then fold them inward. Alright, so that's basically the lower half done. And now on to the upper half. Now again, this just like Elita 1, the transformation does have quite a bit more going on, and more of the robot mode is forming the vehicle mode than a standard RC or even most standard female Transformers. So again, if you didn't catch the previous review, I really like that mold for actually incorporating a little bit more of the bulk of the vehicle into the robot itself instead of just, you know, hiding a robot inside of a shell that folds up. That said, we do have a decent amount of shell on this one too. So if we open this backing up, the rear section has to fold up like so, and while this is apart, we can fold it down like this and give her like a thicker backpack that cleans up her silhouette a little bit more. But Minerva is known for having like big shoulder stacks like RC. So we gotta fold them up a little bit, which you can also do. I do like it that if you have both of these toys, you have both RC and Elita 1, or Elita 1 and Minerva. So, if you have both Elita 1 and Minerva, you can give them a swap on that backpack to give them a little bit of a different profile, which I think is actually a handy little feature. As I was talking there, you saw me finish up the transformation just by straightening up the arms a little bit. That is necessary, of course, and then rotating the waist. And that completes a very nice little transformation. Now, like I said, it is definitely more involved than most female Transformers because, you know, it's not trying to get this perfectly feminine form. You can see aesthetically, she's got some blockage to her. You know, she's got heavier parts to her. She's like more thick in the legs, more squared off in the arms. And this is kind of the direction I'd like to see a lot of female Transformers go, so they aren't so reliant on shell. You know, it's a nice thing to see. And overall, yeah, among most female Transformers in the modern day, I feel like this is potentially the best one. If only because it does what so many of the others lack. You know, and it's so much more... It's more satisfying. It's definitely way more satisfying to transform. So, we take a look at her. The coloration on this toy is spot on. As close as they could get adapting the Elita 1 toy to match the detailing of Minerva. Of course, sculpting and detailing isn't going to be exactly correct, but the colors are, for the most part, laid out in the same spots. So you have the blue in the pelvis, you have all the red in the upper body, you have the red thighs, which the red thighs are entirely painted. Also, it's not a bad look at all. Like, she looks pretty close to how Minerva should look. You know, at the very least, it gets the character across really well. She does have a backpack. We acknowledge that. But like we said, Minerva does actually incorporate that into her official design. So she's supposed to have some bulk sticking out of her. Specifically, these extra bits of kibble should be like really tall shoulders on her. So they've adapted that into something of an RC style, like back pylon thing. And I don't mind it so much. You know, it frees up the shoulders to be a lot more maneuverable. However, I do kind of wish that they had done the remolding a little bit farther so I could maybe rotate these to face forward, and that way there's a flat side showing forward, which would be a little bit closer to how Minerva looked in the anime. So I feel like there could have been a little bit more done, but for the most part, I understand why it's limited. Now, we get to the part that everyone is a little bit upset about, and that is the head. Now, the head sculpt looks fine. Like, it definitely comes across as Minerva. There's nothing wrong with that. What everyone is upset over, or at least what a lot of people are upset over, is it's definitely not a headmaster. So she doesn't her head does not transform. It does not come off. I'm sure some third party will figure out how to do it eventually. Hopefully it's like a really well done one instead of just like a 3D print or something. But yeah, for what it is, the head is absolutely fine. I don't really find fault with it. Let's admit here, we would prefer it to be a headmaster. We would prefer it to have its correct vehicle mode. We would prefer it to have that kibble be a little bit more accurate to how she looked in the anime. That said, we have to acknowledge Minerva is still a fairly obscure character in Transformers, especially amongst American fans who have no idea about Victory or Masterforce or any of the fiction in Japan. So this is something of a test run. And as we've seen a lot, they've been delving into Japanese Transformers here and there. So, yeah, as long as we're making progress, it's all I care about. It just means that someday a proper night beat that can become Minerva should hopefully come along someday. Alright, so let's get into the articulation rundown on this toy. So the head is on a ball joint, so it's got a little bit of back and forth, up and down, but it's all a 360-degree swivel. Shoulders swivel nicely. Now, there's a little spike on the shoulder that does hit on some of the backpacks, so some of the positions are a little bit limited, but you can work around them for the most part. Biceps, full rotation. Elbows, beyond 90 degree. Love to see that. Wrists are also 360. Waist is 360, and because the kibble hinges, you can get it out of the way. Thighs completely free and clear. You got a lot of range of posability in there. I say free and clear as I notice that mine gets stuck in a couple spots. Yeah, oh, yes, I'm trying to figure out how they work just to make sure that I'm doing something wrong. Okay, yeah, but they're fine. Knees, 90 degree, and then you have the ankle tilts, which still have the problem Elita 1's ankle tilts have. Instead of just being really stiff hinges, there's a click. There's a detent to them, which means you cannot get subtle ankle tilts. That is the narrowest tilt you can get. So, fortunately, she has a pretty wide profile on the inside of her foot, which means she can still get those poses, but they're a little bit trickier. Especially on a glass countertop that I'm reviewing on. And, they're not going to look quite as nice as some other figures did. So that's the flaw Elita 1 had. Minerva suffers it as well. Now, she does come with her weapons, so we can go ahead and mount those. She still has all of these points of weaponizing that she can do. They've all been relocated to other spots, however, and some, like here low on the ankle, might be a little bit difficult to use, but there's other creative spots. If you want to weaponize her over the shoulders, you can use that. Undersling some weapons, she has a hole for that. But for the most part, yeah, that's going to be your Minerva. She's pretty good. Now, remember, as something of a test run to see if they can get away with an obscure character, I think they've done a really good job. Making the Elita 1 toy that will also work as Minerva is a pretty good stroke to get two characters who really aren't represented well in the toy lines, some new figures that are actually functionally good. And like I said, mold-wise, it is a step forward for female Transformers, which I always really like to see. It's not perfect, and yes, it's missing some of the most important functionality we associate with Minerva, but if this works, and it's a popular figure, who knows? We might see more down the line. Fingers crossed that this is not the last time we see a Headmaster Jr. on our shelves.
Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.